Hi everyone, welcome back to Be Swift Art. Today I'm going to do a special order. It's for somebody's wedding, so the bride's favorite flower is tiger lily and the groom's favorite is a fern. So I'm going to attempt to do a loose painting of tiger lily with a fern in the background. And I'm starting out on an 8x10 sheet of watercolor paper. It's 140 pounds. And I love to start with this great big quill. It says here that it's 240 silver atelier golden talcon quill made in China. I got this on Amazon and I've been using it for quite a while, and I love it because it holds so much water. So I'm going to start out with water. So I'm going to do my just clean water. And I got a little bit of cold I'm recovering from, so my voice is a little foggy today, or froggy, or whatever. I'm going to try to do this loose. So my tiger lily is going to go right here, and I'm going to kind of do it more bigger with just some little delicate loose ferns in the background. Starting out with the flower. So we're going to do wet on wet. So wet paint on wet paper. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to try and start just by putting a little bit of water where I think my petals are going to go. It's always tricky when you're doing a loose flower and not doing a drawing underneath it. So I'm just kind of going in the shape. And I noticed that they have 6 petals on them. So I'm going to start with my pale yellow here. Keep it light to start with, and I'm just going to drop in just a little bit of yellow where I started off with my water underneath, just to give it a little bit of a background. And what's unique about tiger lilies is the petals kind of curl back on themselves, so I'm going to try to do that here in a second swipe. But first I just want to get in my little petals here. Kind of get them going. Yeah, and it's going to grow as I paint it, so I'm keeping that in mind because the water's going to keep moving. So now I'm going to come back in. I'm going to put my quill aside. That was just to get that water in there. And now I'm going to try to find my number 8 really quick. Right here's one. This one is a Princeton, number 8, Aqua Elite. So I'm going to put that in. I got a really pretty kind of yellow-orange. So I'm going to get some of that going, and then I'm going to try to kind of leave the yellow in the highlighted areas. So I'm going to kind of just start swiping in a little bit of my orange here. So kind of right now kind of concentrating on the edges, and then it's darker where it seems to curl back upon itself, so keep that in mind as I'm going. And the very center seems to be a little lighter too. So I'll just get that orange in here. For some reason it's starting to look a little muddy in color here. If it don't turn out well, then I will do something else with it, but it's always a chance. Okay, so there I have kind of my yellow and my yellow-orange, and I want to make it a prettier, brighter orange, so I'm going to come back in now with a little bit of this kind of orangey sherbet color. And I'm dabbing it because I want to leave some of that yellow showing through there. Get my orange in there. And trying to decide, sometimes you gotta think a lot on a painting if you haven't done it before, and this is going to be one of them for me because I gotta decide if I want to put these little back curls in now, or do I want to do it after I bump it out. So I'm going to put them in now. So that's kind of the petals just kind of go around themselves there. And I'm using the brighter orange. That one I don't think you're going to see too much. But that would be like kind of the edge where it starts to wrap around there. And then this too kind of, kind of wrap this petal around on it to itself. And this one here. Yeah, I think I'm getting the effect. And there'll be another one here. And then this one. Yeah, I don't think you're going to see that one either. Okay, so I'll leave that like it is. And now I'm going to come with my quill. And I got a whole bunch of water in it, just plain water. And on some of these edges, I think I should, kind of loosen it up. So not every spot. And then I also got to try to not take away too much from the actual flower itself. So I have to think about this as I'm doing it. And like maybe kind of bump that out. I can always come back and add more because this is going to, number one, dry lighter. So I'm keeping that in mind. And number two, it really kind of diffuses your design a lot when you do it like this. So you have an opportunity to come back and redefine some of the areas. But I also like how it gives you this little bit of a muted background because then it tells you that there's more orange flowers in the background somewhere. And I think I'll leave that little point in there. And this one, maybe get that little less water in there. Or more water, less paint. And let's see. Just a little bit soft, just to soften it a little bit. Okay. Then kind of spread this out. Again, like it's just... So my tiger lily's going to be here, and then I'm going to have some ferns kind of come in there, and maybe a stem coming around. So I'm thinking about my ferns now, and I really don't want to dilute them with too much orange. A little bit of orange might be pretty in there. So I'm really kind of taking some water and just swirling it around. Probably too much, but it's okay, because see how it's running. That's okay though, we can fix that. We just take some regular old thin single ply toilet paper here. This is the Scott 1000. And I'm just going to lay it right over. It's going to take a lot of my color out of my painting, but I got like a little foundation going. So just laying it on top, kind of letting it absorb in there a little bit. And then I'm just going to gather it up, pull it back. Okay, and then just kind of clean up some of these puddles around the outside. There we go. Okay, so right off the bat, just softening a few of these little, kind of like that there. So I'm just looking at what I like, what I don't like, because now I can come back and give it a little bit more strength with more paint. So, yeah. What I'm going to do in the meantime, though, is start moving on to my fern. I want to let that dry slightly, not very much. I'm going to take my big old quill again, and now I'm coming in with this blue-green, and I'm thinking of this color as kind of shadows in the background. So these are this is still wet, so my paint is going to spread, but it's going to just kind of give me a start on these kind of ferny details. So I'm just dabbing the very tip of my brush in here. Give it some movement. Kind of thinking about the little tiny leaves of a fern. To kind of come down here like that. Maybe some going up. And like I said, these are kind of shadows. So when this dries, you're not going to see it a lot. And by the time I'm end up putting all my water and everything I want on here, it's going to be quite diffused into the background. But I'm just kind of putting it on. And some spots are still a little bit dry, so it'll grabs onto those areas. Try to think about lacy, light, and delicate. So if I have a stem coming this way, I might have some leaves coming in there. So I've got 3 areas where these light lacy ferns are. See how that just diffused into nothing over here? So just putting some little dots. And this is drier down here, so it's staying where I put it. And I like that. So we'll just leave that do its thing. Let it start to dry on its own. And now this water has sunk into the paper a little bit more. So I'm going to go back and grab my number 8 brush. And I want to come back with my more orangey sherbet color and start thinking about, you know, the shape of these petals a little bit more defined, because right now it doesn't look like anything, does it? So I'm going to come back and just kind of put my shape in. This is still wet enough to see where that paint really wants to spread. That's the little where it's bending back. And I can bring this into the center. And like the back side of this petal here. And then just define that. Yeah, like that. Might have needed to wipe that out a little bit more, but this is where it bends back. This is my little petal here. So being careful not to make it too soft. You never know until it's done. Because paint's going to keep on moving. Wherever there's water, it's going to also move. And it'll got that one there. That one you can't see. That one got a little bit too crazy. This one, let's make it a little taller, I think. Come in there. And I'm thinking, like right in here, I wish that it wasn't as dark. So I'm gonna just get water on my brush and just kind of wiping it out. Right there. Get a little bit of my toilet tissue here, just so I can wipe my brush dry as best I can and just wipe out a little bit there. So I can do something with this curl so that it'll look good. And I got some little fuzzies there that I wanted to clean up a bit. Then come back with my quill, dip it in the water, and this is a good edge to diffuse here, so I'm going to diffuse that. Maybe right up into here, so if I think about it as the light is coming here and the light is diffusing a little bit of this side of the flower here. And I'm going to leave that. I'm going to go right into that area there, and I got my toilet tissue. I'm just going to one time go down and bring it back up. And you see it took off quite a bit of that paint there. I'm just coming back with water, and I'm going in a circular motion, and I'm just softening out that edge. And I'm going to come back and redefine these petals here, but just kind of blending them out a little bit here. Just kind of scrubbing. And I'm going into the corners because I don't like it if you stop and then you have a white corner. It seems like your eye will just go right to that white corner. And now, as you can see, all of my fern, did, soften right up and blend out. And I'm going to go over it here again. So I'm just kind of putting a little bit of orange into that background. Trying not to leave too many sharp corners of that. Now here, where I've taken water and put it in the paint that's already dried a little bit, that'll create a bloom. A bloom meaning your water blooms on your paper and disperses the paint out. So you can see it starting to happen right here. See that? Sometimes that's a really beautiful effect, and sometimes you don't want it to be there. If you don't want it to be there, now's the time. Before it dries, you can kind of soften it and make that water the same wetness all the way through that petal. And it's doing it up here a little bit, but I kind of think that's pretty. I don't know if I like that little spot right there or not. Not sure, so I'm just going to wipe it out. Wipe it out at this point. So I'm going to take a little bit of toilet tissue and just press down. Oh, heck, a lot of it came out. Yep. And then I'm going to blend. This is just with the brush. Get my toilet tissue again, different spot. I don't want to push down with the same spot, or I would just be putting that orange right back onto the paper. Okay. A little fuzzy in there. Something. Probably just leave it alone. Oh, there, got it. Alright. Okay, so now I have the start of a flower, a start of some ferns. Here's a couple splatters of my orange, so before they dry, a little bit of orange into the background. I'm back with my big quill. There, that's better. Just kind of work that into there. And you gotta watch it dry when you're doing wet on wet, because you see things start to reappear, like that little bloom. You gotta watch it. I like the dark edge though, that looks really good. Just blending that back. I do really like how that's starting to turn out there. So I'm gonna rinse out my quill. And I'm just going to blot it onto my towel over here. Put this aside. And now, like, this is starting to dry. And I want to come back in with some green. And so the tiger lilies, I think they're blooming like in July. And they They bloom for quite a long time, but the leaves are nice and green at this point. So I got some little shadowy leaves here. And just, on the same kind of note, I'm holding my brush by the very, very end because I want to get that loose, uncontrolled feeling. So, and the ferns always have like these little branches coming off of a center branch. And this is going to diffuse also into my paper because it's still wet. So I like a little curve at the top of some of the ferns. And some of these little things I'm putting in here just might disappear completely, but that's okay. I can always come back and paint them over, paint on top of it again. As long as I'm starting light and building up. But see how lacy that looks? So I'm not going through and painting each and every petal. I'm just kind of giving it a jiggly, using the tip of my brush and trying to not hold on to my brush too tight. I think maybe that's part of it too. Gotta kind of think of how we'll want to end here. So I'm going to leave that, and isn't that pretty how that just, went so soft back here. It's going to go more softer, so I'm just going to give it a couple little dabs here and there of my green. So I'm using like yellow-green kind of lime color. And I'm going to put more greens in here too. So I'm going to come back up here now where I had this one. Same kind of thing. What I usually do for like commission work, and I did this one too, is, I don't charge for it until they accept it. So like there's, if she doesn't like it, because it's pretty important, it's for a wedding present. So if it's not what she had in mind, you never know what people have in mind, because what they visualize quite often is totally different than what you thought they were talking about. Or even sometimes when they see something. I had a lady come by my booth at an art fair last weekend, and she really loved one of my paintings that I had up, and she came back the next day to buy it, and in her mind it wasn't the same painting. I hadn't moved any paintings, it was the same painting, but she insisted, no, it had, it was all in greens, and I know what I painted, so, and I know how many paintings I've had. As particular, it was a palm tree. I only have painted 2 of them ever, so I knew that was the one she looked at the day before. But you just can't tell somebody, because in their mind it's not, it's something else. So she did end up buying it, but I kind of felt bad that she thought I was doing like a switcheroo on her. But I wasn't. I swear it, but yeah, that's just how that came out, So now I'm just, looking at it, putting in some of this lighter green. Yeah. So I'm trying to be very close. Very lacy, just holding on to the very end of my paintbrush so that I don't have that much control. And I can't get right in there and do nitty-gritty little teeny tiny details. So I'm doing that on purpose because she wants a loose painting. And see, now these ones, because the paper's drier, they're more defined. But you want a little bit of that. Maybe where the stem would be. These paintings are very fun because they just happen. They're very intuitive. You're just painting and watching and adjusting. It's pretty, isn't it? I love how that one's turning out. So it's telling me, I'm liking it a little bit more dry than wet, my paper. And I like the variations of color there. I like just these some edges like this. long as it's balanced, I like that a lot, where it's just kind of showing a little bit in some places and more diffused in other places. That's my goal. So I'm just continuing on painting a few, and I like the little variation of the lime green here. I can't let this get too dry or it's not going to have a wet on wet effect at all, so gotta let this part dry. Put a few in here. It's hard to stop. Okay, so now I'm still with my number 8 brush, and I'm coming back to my flower. Okay, I'm coming in with that orange again. It's pretty damp yet, so that's good. So I kind of like the lost edge there. So I'm going to come around. Bring that in. And it kind of curves in that way. And these flowers, you know, they turn them back on themselves. So gotta restrain myself from painting it in too detailed. But I want to have some of that detail in there. And let's see, letting that dry just a little bit. It's a little wetter than this area. So then also, now see the second layer. Isn't that beautiful how, you know, you can define it even more. And this side isn't as diffused, so I'm going to paint it in a little bit, and then bring some into that center. Get that little trying to decide how to get that little loop to look, you know, where the little tip of the petal folds back onto itself. So yeah, and then here we go down to this area. There's some stamens, you know, they have these beautiful stamens, so I want to leave this kind of lighter right there so I can paint those stamens in. And this is still getting on the wet side. So I can come back, maybe, I love that right there, but I gotta have a little bit more color, so I'm just gonna put a little there. And then those stamens are gonna come out this way. And then this is drier. Good. All right, so then let's see, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, one more petal. So there's 6 of them. There. And this one, I kind of lost my original layout of that, if you will. So then this one is gonna come like that. And that's kind of lighter, but it goes over this edge. Maybe something like that. And then my little My little curled behind petal there. Okay. Now I'm going to come back with some yellow. And in right here. Put some yellow in there. Some of these bright areas. I want it to look like sunshine. And then this petal here, like maybe right there, I guess. I'm thinking a lot here. And it's gonna come. This has to come up here. Oh, my voice just went away. And that had to come up there, okay. Yeah, a little bit more yellow in this area. It should come down a little bit farther. Okay. And then some yellow. A little bit. And then some here. I like how that one turned out, so I'm going to try to get that in there. Like that. And then this little leaf here. And a little curled leaf there. That's quite wet, so I'm likely going to get a bloom there. Okay. Coming back with my quill with just some water and working on this kind of lost edge here. Don't want to bump into that part. And this part was a little bit of a lost edge, so let's soften it a little bit. Okay. And I think I'll leave those more defined. I'll rinse out my quill. And now I'm watching it. Watching it, making sure it's not going to bleed out too much. I'm sure there's a big puddle here. So I'm just going to lay my toilet paper on that part. Lift it up. Get that sopping wet puddle. Like right there. Keep turning. Don't reprint it back on there. That's what I wanted to get. And then see that right there? I'm not liking that. So it's going to come in. Out, get a new clean spot. I'm going to take out a little bit here. I'm going to redefine that. And for right now, I'm just going to come back. Kind of blocking it in. Just watching as it's drying. And I want want to have these stamens coming out, so I don't want this too dark, so I'm just going to wipe it out from the middle. Fill that middle in a little because there is no white there, I don't think. So I'm just going to bring out, I'm wiping my brush on my toilet tissue, and I'm just making the start of my stamens. Just wiping it out so I'll have lighter color there, okay? And then, while it's nice and wet. Oh, I just painted that one in. That's okay, there probably will be one there. Just wiping my brush in the water. Wiping it in my toilet tissue here and just getting the paint off of where my stamens are going to go. Okay, so that is that. I'm watching how this is drying. It's a nice interesting pattern there. Now right in the very center, I think I'm going to go with a little bit of a darker, just a red, and just kind of dab it in just a little. So that's the center of my flower, and you see how that can kind of draw it, suck it down in a little bit, gives it a curvature there. And that's also moving, so it's moving with the water that's in that on that paper right now. Okay, so letting that dry just a little. Nothing dries completely, except when I put my little dots on. So I still want to define a little bit of the definition, even though it's loose. It's kind of semi-loose. Let's say that it's halfway in the middle, right? Okay, so now I can come back and think about my ferns again, and now I'm going to go with like a sap green. And I'm got my number 8 round also again. And I'm going to start thinking about these little ferns. I probably got it. I don't want to go too dark. I feel like that's a bit dark. So what I'm going to do now, before it gets too out of control, is get my toilet tissue here, and I'm just going to lay it on top. Give it a little dab there and lighten it up. Okay, so that's all you gotta do. I still have some. It's still wet, so I can still move it. See that? And again, remember, hold that brush at the very edge, tip of your brush, and just using the point, I'm just kind of dancing my brush. Little tiny leaves. Little tiny leaves. Yeah, and that's still wet, but I'm going to come back and add something there. And I'm just kind of imagining my stem. Little leaves coming off of the main. So if you had like a little stem coming, little branch coming out like that, and then you can kind of add a little bit of the tip on it, and see how lacy it's looking? Let's add on each side of those branches. And if these go right off the page once it's framed, I like that too. So that's a bonus in my book. It's all your own taste. That's what makes your painting your style. Just do it how you like, how it feels good to you. And there's people out there that like same things you like, right? So people will like it. Now I really like that, how that turned out right there, so I'm going to try and not cover it all up. Leave some peeking through. Get my fern starting to curve a little. That's something I try to work on, is having some movement. So not everything is straight up and down or like little soldiers. Gotta keep a little movement, lots of curves, little C's, little C curves. And I gotta remember I'm gonna have a stem in here, but I don't really want the stem to be predominant. I would rather my ferns, since that's the groom's favorite. So I'm just looking at how much water is in this and is diffusing. That's an opportunity to drop in some color. You know, it's the same sap green, but putting another layer on it when it's a little drier, it shows up darker. Okay, so I wish that was a little bit less spread out, so I'm going to take my toilet tissue. So you gotta keep this stuff handy. And just in that area, I'm going to try to just lay it down over the top and pick it up. And I didn't put anything on my brush. I'm just kind of moving around what's already there. Now I'm going to come back into my sap green. Just dabbing in a little, just trying to give it some lighter highlights and some darker greens in there, make it look lacy. Okay, so I'm gonna let that dry there. And this is still wet. So now that it is pretty much on the drier side, I mean, it's pretty damp still, but I want to bring in a little bit of this darker orange, just a little, and now just do a little bit of defining of my petals here. So I'm just going to come in, and because it's still damp, it's going to spread out. Not too much, less is more. I want that to look like it's curling around. Kind of behind, right? And a little bit right in here. And that's where my stamens have to be. Just a little bit there. Maybe. So this one seems to have a little bit of a the curved area. Sorry, I'm not talking too loud, because I don't want to cough too. That's part of it. But I kind of like that. That goes together. Maybe a little of that there. Okay. Now I'm coming back with that lemon yellow. And just kind of dropping some in. It's also softening out. So now I cleaned off my brush. And I'm just taking my paper towel, mopping out some of the areas. It's real tempting to just want to smooth everything out and make it all soft and more realistic, but actually leaving this kind of diffused texture in there makes it beautiful. So I want to be careful not to wipe everything out and leave some of that distorted look in some areas where it's light and some areas where you missed paint completely. But then there's areas like this edge that I wanted to keep soft and diffused, so I want to keep that wet and beyond it wet so that it can move into that area, because water, the paint will follow wherever there's water. So if you leave water on the edge, it'll make that edge very soft. But gotta watch for the blooms, not to get the blooms in there, so. Or gotta watch what the blooms do. So I like that. I think that's looking pretty, and then once I put my little polka dots on my tiger lily, that'll be cute. So I'm gonna watch that as it dries. I'm gonna come back and work on my other fern leaves here. And so let's say that there's a stem. From my tiger lily. So it's going to have a stem from there. And then I can have that stem coming around like that. So also I could have another little stem coming up and put like a little tiger lily bud, which would be very pretty. So I have the fern go over that stem on that side, and then I'll have it come. So that's so diffused it wouldn't make sense to have a really defined stem there, would it? So I'm going to come back and maybe just kind of lightly tap that in, because I think I'll put that another bud right there. So if I put a bud there, so let's start the same way. So let's start with the yellow, and let's see, would the bud go down or is it going to stick straight up? In between, so I'm not real sure, so I'm just going to put a little bit of yellow and a little bit of this first orange that I use that is not as bright, and then I'll come back with my brighter orange, and I'm just laying the colors kind of striped into that. And then I'm going to take a little bit of my sap green and touch just the bottom of it. So there could be another. I think that would be pretty. So if I did another bud coming out of nowhere. Whoop, that's really thick. Okay, so this is going to be a leaf. See how you got to adjust? Have to adjust your ways as you go. Yeah, that's pretty. So now with that leaf being there, my question to myself is, do I need another bud? Or I could have another bud coming up here, but is that going to crowd my main focus? I think I'm going to do it just like that and leave that be there. I could put another leaf on the other side a little bit. Just like that. So what I'm doing is I'm just tipping my brush and then I'm pressing down as I'm turning and then lifting it up. I wiggled. And bringing that into the stem. Okay. I think that looks pretty. Okay, so back to my ferns now. So now that I have a little bit more flowers showing, I can see, you know, there's empty spot right here. So I could put a fern coming this way, or I could just continue on this way, which I think is what I'm going to do. So this is really pretty right there. There's my top of my fern. Little bit too dark. Water down my paint a little bit more. Holding my brush at the end. And sometimes having a lot of contrast with, you know, much darker really makes it pop, where you think, oh, it's just too dark, but sometimes you just don't put enough in and it looks much better a little darker. So what I don't want to do is follow this fern on this stem line, so I'm going to make it come out this way. And holding my brush very light, like a baby dove. You don't want to, just very gentle. And just dancing it around. They're really kind of just lifting it up and putting little dots down. Just wanted to put a little bit, couple with a little bit lighter. A little bit lighter. Now this isn't dry yet either. Now I can come back before it gets too dry and break up that place there where it looks like a bunch has merged together. So I'm correcting that by adding some more color to the whole thing. It's very light, gentle touch. Yeah, that's looking pretty. What do you think? And I'm extending a few of these out, so kind of breaks it up, and then I'm filling in a little bit also, making it look very intentional. I like these little fine little ends coming out. I think that looks better. Okay, coming back to my fern over here. And where all my stems stop, I want to make sure that there's something in front of that. So like right here. Continuing on with my little ferns here, I'm just adding another layer of color. Same sap green, but I'm adding some darks. And, you know, I'm trying to keep that consistent throughout the same level of the painting, like the foreground or background. This just makes it interesting. And remembering that it does dry lighter, so just touching it, tip of my brush. And wherever there's a part where it might go in the front, make sure I get a little bit of depth of color there. Little tiny delicate petals. Okay. Then I got another one I can put in here. So now I have this one here, this one here. I got like kind of a little bit of the green background coming here, but I don't want it to go into that one. And I don't want this one too much, but I want that to show, and it's the same color. So I gotta make this, maybe kind of branch off of this one, follow this line. So I'm just gonna kind of dab in my direction and make them a little separate. Probably that'll be covered up by the mat there. So I'm going darker and lighter. So I'm not trying to cover up all my lime green in the background, but that's kind of just information. It's just saying, oh, there's more ferns, just not just these ferns. So this looks more of a natural scene rather than a still life bouquet. Just trying to look like it naturally was in the woods. So I think, you know, really kind of exaggerating some of these curves is pretty. Again, with the little delicate tips. Just trying to keep it nice and loose. Just keeping those, you know, we're trying to stay away from trying to paint every single little leaf in, but just kind of give enough information that it's a fern and that there's more ferns in the background. And I can't cover up every little spot or it just looks very busy. But remember that there is something behind here. So at this point, I'm just kind of making it look like this all goes together. I want to try to keep it as simple as I can as I get to this bottom. So I'm just putting in what I believe is necessary. And a lot of times you find out after you're done, like, oh, what did I do? How come I did that so much? Or well, it didn't put enough here, or didn't put enough contrast in. So it's just something that, yeah, might learn a little bit more of after. So every painting we learn something from it, don't we? So isn't that, you know, the idea, to keep growing? So just keep looking at it. Okay. Not bad. Now I'm just going to take a little bit more and just come around here. Oh, not enough. Let me get a little paint on the brush. That would help. And I just want to kind of define how that leaf goes. Like that. And I'm just taking water and just softening the edge. Clean water. Wipe off my brush. You could put clean water on it and just coming over on one side of it and just softening that. Whoops, went out of my line there. Put that right off the edge, the paper there. Okay, so see how when I drop just that little bit of green into the stem here, it kind of naturally bled into that and made its own shadow. And I'm just adding just a little dab of a little bit darker there. There, like that. Give it a little bit more interest. Okay. So back to now. Yep, Tiger Lily is almost dry. And got to do the little stamens in there. So I am going to take my number 4 brush. It's got a nice point on it. This is by Mimic, M-I-M-I-K. Number 4 round by Creative Mark. And I'm going to take, to start with, my, whoops, I got a little green in that brush. Maybe rinse it out a little better, huh? No, I just contaminated my yellow. Rinse it out. So I'm going to come back now. Get some yellow in here. And I'm just going to start by, with this pale yellow, I'm going to come back and shade it too, but I'm going to start by just putting some stamens in here. Because that's part of what's fun. That and the polka dots, that's what really makes Tiger Lily fun. And these curve. So you want to get them kind of starting in the middle and then they will curve on out. And some will crisscross. And then they kind of spread out the other way as well. Maybe like that. That's probably plenty. And I'm going to let that dry. Then in the meantime, the Tiger Lilies have lots and lots of little dots, little random polka dots here and there. But before you put the dots on, you want to make sure that you like the shadows and things that are in your painting. So this is semi-loose, as I said. It's not exactly loose, but going to take just a little bit of neutral tint, which is kind of like a gray. And I'm going to put a little bit of that brighter sherbety orange into it. A little bit more orange. I'm making a shadow color. So I don't want it to be gray. So I don't really see gray, but I need a little bit of definition in some of these petals here because they all make one, and since, like I said, it's semi-loose so I'm going to put some definition in it and define them. So I'm just going to come in and like where I could use a little bit of shadow. I put that in, and then I'm just going to take it on one side. I'm going to soften it like that. And then let's see, this could use a little bit right here. And there's like a little kind of crease, if you would. Crease in the middle. Kind of take my water. I'm going to come back on one side. Rinse it out. Take just water. I'm going to come back on the other side, but I'm leaving the middle. So there'll just be a little bit of dark there. Okay, so now this also is going to need a little bit of defining. So do the same thing. And this one, now I'm just going to take my brush, wet, one side, kind of like it like that. I'm going to leave that, and then I'm going to come back, just my brush just to soften out one side of that there. And I'm going to come back in, put my little line, wet brush, rinsed it off, and just going to come back. Blend that out. There we go, like that. Rinse my brush off. Coming back on one side, wipe it in your paper towel in between. And come back on the other side, like that. And then on this side, and then right here. Right, just with the wet brush. And then that kind of made that curl look better too. See how it's popping out? It's popping out a bit. And then I got the same thing I can do right here. And then I can bring this out and right there. I'm taking my wet brush right there. Let's take my wet brush. And then a little more paint with that neutral tint and that orange. I'm just gonna make a little shadow on the other side of this. There, like that, so it looks like it's curling around. This one's in the light more, so I didn't do it as much. But I could do that right here. Just a little bit. there to make that look like it's curling back. And then a little bit more here. Make that look like it's curling behind. Like that. Okay, I think we're getting somewhere. It's starting to look like it's got a little bit more definition. Even though, like I said, it's supposed to be loose, but you know, like semi-loose. And I want to bring back a little bit more of this center where the orange is. In fact, I'll put a little bit of that neutral tint in there also. And bring that center down in deeper. There. Okay. It's hard to stop, and then if you don't stop, you go too far. You can't take it back. It's a problem. Okay, so I think I've got a nice background for my tiger lily, and here's my ferns, and I think they look really beautiful and lacy, and I've got a bud there. I was thinking of threes, like 3 flowers, 3 ferns, or 5 or 7, an odd number is more pleasing, but I think I got my 3s with my flower, my bud, and then these leaves, so I think that's my 3 elements there, and then I have the 3 clumps of ferns. And also I have a nice C shape going here. That's another thing, you want to have some movement. I also have like pretty much plain area up here, somewhere for your eye to land and rest, with all of this busy fern stuff going on here. So I think that we're accomplishing that. Now my stamens, I want to make sure they're good and dry before I continue on with them. So I'm going to get my blow dryer. Nothing is wet enough to where it can move, otherwise it would just blow it onto the page. So I'm just taking my blow dryer and just drying, especially this stamen area. Now that's still wet right there. I'm going to hold it up higher, my blow dryer, and let it kind of dry it, and then once all the shine is off, I can hold it closer. But it's just on low but warm heat. Okay, so that's pretty dry now. So now I'm going to continue on with the stamens. So I'm going to use that same darker orange and a little bit of my neutral tint. And it kind of makes a muddy color, doesn't it? So I'm going to add just a little bit of yellow green there. Kind of perk it up just a bit, a little bit more yellow green. Yeah, that's better. It is a mud color now because I put the neutral tint in there, but I'm using that number 4 brush, and I'm just going to use the very tippy tip, and I'm going to turn my paper so that it's easy for me to work on it from the angle that I want. So okay, so now it's nice and dry, and I'm going to start. Make sure I don't have any water on this metal shaft part, because if it drips down and makes a blob, you can't do your details very, very clearly. So I'm going to start, like if the light is coming here, so they go underneath. So I'm just shading these stamens. And they all meet up in the center. I'm just carefully trying to individualize each little stamen. Kind of put a little center in my flower here. Okay, so there's what I did there. So let me bring it up to you a little bit so you can see. Okay. So I only did the one side. You could do both sides wherever you feel it might need a little bit of that. You know, because like right here, they're kind of touching. So I could start, you know, another little line, the same thing right here on the top side, just a bit. Maybe right there, so closer into the center too. Okay, so it kind of looks a little bit more defined. And then it has these really pretty long little stamens or something, I don't know what you call them, but right on the very end, and they're almost like a rust color. So I'm going to use a red brown on here. Still using that number 4 brush, and now thinking about how they're naturally, some are shorter, some are longer. So, you know, let's start with, like right here could be a great place for a shorter one. You know, shorter meaning more inside. And they kind of have a little lighter area in the middle. So I'm going, and they kind of go in different directions as well. So I'm going, let's see, like something like, and they hang on by the middle of this. So I'm drawing one half and then the other half. To me, it kind of looks like a skinny coffee bean. Trying to leave some of them have some white in the middle, just so it doesn't look so solid. I think they're cute. And some of them I'm not as successful at, not making them solid. Okay. It's okay. And I don't really want them to touch. And maybe there should be one right in there somewhere. I don't have a stem leading there, but you would never know that. Nobody's gonna draw a line and say, hey, that one didn't have a little stamen to it. Okay, so I got those now. I think those are really cute. I like that. Oops. Probably should have left it alone and made it fatter, but let's come around, turn my painting around to match it. Making it even fatter. No one will know in the end. Okay, so now I have my little stamens done. And I think that this needs a little bit more definition, so I'm bringing my paint in there. Just around where all the stamens connect. And then I'm just gonna, with just water, bring them down into the like that. Okay, so now the fun part, the little polka dots. So they're kind of also a little purplish blue, not blue, brown, purplish brown color. Most time you would think they're black. So now I have choices. So I could put them the same brown as this red brown as the stamens, and I think, you know, they're almost the same color naturally. Or I could go with a purple into my brown. I think I'm just going to stick with the red brown. And if I was really being loose, I would just splatter some in there and let them fly. Whatever color, wherever I want them to be. But I'm just going to try to put them in by hand. And also when I'm doing this, I'm just kind of thinking they're not all the same size. And they're random. But I could use this opportunity to define a little bit. See that? I just went right up that line. See, I can make that. I can define my inside a little bit more with that. So they're dots, but they're also a little bit of an outline. And these go on the outside of the petal. So on the back side, there are no dots. And they get kind of sparser, I guess. They're some more concentrated, maybe in the center of the flower. And you want to make sure it looks random, not a pattern. And they don't touch. So just continue putting the little dots on. And they're kind of lightening up a little bit. As they get a little bit larger and softer towards the outside here. So like that. Yeah, I like those. So I'm going to continue on and do that to the rest of my petals here using that red brown. And today I'm using my Mission Gold Magello paints by Mission Gold. So some of the areas, ooh, that's a little bit too much. Gotta have a softer touch. Some of the areas I might want to let that yellow kind of show through a little bit more by just, you know, letting the dots not be as close together. And see where I wanted to define this edge there, so I wouldn't want to define it again on the other side, or it looks too intentional, not natural. Try not to get them all in a row as I'm doing it in a row. And remember, we softened this edge out, so these dots should be quite soft. Okay, my video cut off on me. I'm not sure where, so I do apologize. But I'm just putting some dots on very randomly. And I was saying that I do like to do custom orders. So if you ever want me to do something for you, just leave me a message, leave me a comment. And we can work together, and there's no obligation to purchase it. I just will paint it and see how you like it. First, send you a picture of it. And if you like it, then I can mail it out to you. And if you don't, no problem. So I'm also going with the shape of the petal itself. So it's curving around, so my dots are going to curve with it. So in this painting, I want my tiger lily and my ferns to have kind of equal time. I want them to each show up. So one represents the bride, one represents the groom. Now the question is, in the background here, of course there would be some dots. But I don't want to take away from my stamens, so what I'm going to do is, how to do that would be the question, but I'm just going to water down some of the same red-brown. And I'm going to just, whoops, little dark. Let me blot some off my brush here. It's pretty watery, but there's a lot of it. So there, just very, very lightly, very randomly. Kind of showing what's going on behind it, but I don't want it to detract too much from the flower. Can define that a little bit that way. I'm painting in a little bit of an edge, just here and there. I paint a little bit of an edge right here, getting it wet, and then right there I did also. But there, soften that out. I'm going to soften this one out. It looks too square. I want that information in there, that there's something behind. There. I think that's enough. Okay, so there we have okay, so we have that. Kind of wishing it was a little bit darker. I don't know. Not that very light, maybe. Okay, I think that looks all right. And got a little blob there going. just defining a couple of these lines in the stamens. Not every one. There. Just to help them stand out a little bit. Okay. Another thing I want to do is take that same mixture of the neutral tint and the orange and just come in here and give a little bit of texture, shadow, there, to that bud there. I'm going to rinse my brush, fix that, and just soften one side, the inside and the outside. Oh, that's way too much water, but it'll work. Okay, so there's my bud. There's my flowers, there's my ferns. Could put another bud right here, or coming off of here, or I could bring another bud and just have it peeking out back there. Yeah, I will. I'm going to do just, oops, rolling brush. I'm just going to do just a little bit with my number 8 round. I'm going to come back in kind of have it going behind. Just a small one. Like that. So that'll be my 3 orange elements, and it'll be in a curved way also. Come back with my orange. I like what that's doing. I'm just going to come and soften this orange a little bit here. Yeah, I like that. I'm going to take my sap green that I had drawn this stem with, and I like this, so I don't really want it to run into that, but I didn't make it on a good enough angle, did I? There. Touch that a little bit. And then come back a little bit with this neutral tint and orange. There, so that it looks like this one here. Yeah, I like that better. Okay. So, then right here where it overlapped a little, there, just blotted it just a tad. Okay, well, I think that does it right there. Well, all right, one more little nudgy right there. Didn't get it wet enough. Let's add a little water. Just a couple little fern things going on here. It's kind of the center. All right, I like that better. Okay, there you have it. There's my tiger lily and fern picture, 8 by 10. Bring it up. There we go, a little better for you. Here, I'll bring up my tiger lily and a little bud. And then there it is, all done. Okay, well, I thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed the video. And until we meet again, I hope that your whole month is full of peace and love. And we'll see you soon. Bye-bye. Thank you.